recessions. So how do bubbles end? Bubbles usually end, as I said, either with a catastrophe, with something like a run on the bank, whatever the modern day equivalent of it is. The bubble in the Great Recession started to end when a couple of bankers, was it Lehman Brothers? But a couple of bankers just
Yeah.
said, we can't collect on these mortgages. And they were like relatively low level people. And they just said, we're trying to go after these mortgage backed, whatever they were, and we can't collect on them. And that sent a little mini ripple through. I remember I was exercising at the time reading this like short article in Business Week about, something like flaws found in the mortgage backed processing industry. Well, that caused a whole lot of smarter people and a whole lot of people farther up the food chain to say, well, what have we actually got in these portfolios? And
Yeah.
came to the conclusion that they were all labeled A grade risk and they were actually complete crap. And then everybody wanted to be the first person in to get their money out. So that's the other thing that happens. It's got this run on the bank sort of shape. Well, okay, I'm never going to get back what I invested, but let me get back what I can. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, the capital flows start to go the other way.
Playing on loss aversion, right? And then what you're talking about reminds me of Taleb. So Nassim Taleb and Black Swans. It's just that now we're running the bet like at much larger volumes over and over and over, right? So eventually one of those is going to hit, right?
Well, that's the theory, right? Now, the other
Yeah.
way the bubble ends is there's a convincing winner,
Yeah.
you know.
But
And
AI, so this is something we keep talking about. It looks like investors thought it was a winner take all. There's no other way to understand why OpenAI is getting so much investment or Anthropic.
that's right.
But you're already seeing that it's not winner take all. They're segmenting. Anthropic's going enterprise. OpenAI still has a little bit of B2C. You have your open source models, your Chinese models. I don't know how that ends. I
Well,
really don't. Like,
well, if you think about what makes a winner take all market, and this is all the way back to the theory of natural monopoly, right? What makes a winner take all market make sense is when the cost to create a replica is too high. So,
no.
once somebody's established a foothold, the cost to catch up with them is overwhelming. Secondly, when there are natural unit economics, so the cost to serve each additional customer is cheaper for the person, the entity that gets bigger. And the more recent reason winner take all markets emerge is when there's sticky network effects. But here's the thing. Network effects are wildly misunderstood. Everybody thinks about them as infinite. So the idea about an
Yeah.
infinite effect, just for people that aren't familiar with it, if you think of the willingness to pay for a product, so what's my willingness to pay for a notebook? Whatever it is, $2.99. And that doesn't change. So the fact that Mike owns a notebook and Jason owns a notebook and I own a notebook don't really affect the value of our notebooks. But if you imagine a dating site, right? And if you imagine you're the only person on that dating site, unless you're a complete narcissist, it has no value. So
Yeah.
every additional person that comes on the dating site adds value. Now, here's the place where people get tripped up. They think these curves are infinite, that, it's always better the more people are on it. And in a lot of situations, it's not. And I think this is where AI is finding itself, which is in many applications, it's better if there are fewer people using it. So I'll give you a specific. A lot of AI right now is being used in pricing for things like hotel rooms and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
groceries and stuff like that. Here's the problem. The AI is drawing from the same body of data. And so it's providing all these different companies with the same answer. And so to the government, the pricing structures that they're introducing to the market look as though there's collusion when there isn't collusion. It's that they're all using the same AIs to get the same results. So it
Yeah.
has the actual effect of collusion without there actually being anything illegal going on. I don't see anybody having a big solution to that right now, but that's an example where you'd be better off using a specialized, smaller AI that everybody else wasn't using.
It almost requires like a zero-sum game somehow to capture it like that. And it's not, is part of the point, right?
Yeah, no. And there are very few truly natural monopolies. And this actually is another really interesting scenario to me for AI. So it would not be beyond the power of a government to say, AI is our generation's version of electricity. You know how we do
Utility.
electricity? You know how we do electricity? We make them regulated utilities. They're run for efficiency. They should be priced so the vast majority of people can easily afford them. They should not be reserved for the few. They should be like water, clean water, electricity, energy. It would not be beyond a government to simply say we're gonna,
And if you look at the energy requirements, that might come anyway.
it might.
Hey, you've just watched a clip from Show Your Priors podcast. Check out our main channel for full episodes. We have a new one every Tuesday. If you liked what you saw, give us a like and subscribe. It's free for you and helps us out a ton. Did we miss something during our discussions? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.